A soundless scream trapped in a throat no thicker than a pencil. The relentless sun of the Kalahari bore down, baking the earth into a shimmering mirror of heat and desperation. For dark shadows, sleek and low, began to close the circle. They moved with a chilling synchronization, the practiced ease of nature's cold executioners, tightening the noose of sand and scrub around the most defenseless creature imaginable. In the center, a creature barely 3 months old, his tiny name, if he had been fully recognized by the group yet, lost to the wind. His eyes were wide, black pools of terror fixed on the snarling muzzles surrounding him. He was Pip, and he was alone. You are watching a moment when nature seems truly cruel, where the rules of survival dictate an impossible, suffocating end for the most vulnerable. Every instinct demands you look away, but this story is different. This is the story of a lifeline thrown into an abyss of despair, a moment so improbable it defies every law of the wild. Stick with us, because in the heart of this impossible crisis, something completely unpredictable, something you will never guess, is about to happen. This isn't just a rescue, it's a radical rewriting of the food chain. If you believe that even the smallest life deserves a chance, please take a second right now to like this video and subscribe. It helps us share these incredible, untold stories of hope and survival with the world. We've seen hundreds of predator-prey dynamics, observed the tragic necessity of sacrifice, but nothing prepares you for the sheer shock of the rescuer in this specific scenario. It breaks every natural law of the Kalahari, violating the ingrained fear and enmity that defines their existence. The morning had started like any other. The vast, orange-red landscape of the Kalahari stretched out, quiet beneath the pale blue dome of the sky. The resident Meerkat colony, a bustling community of over 24 individuals, had been engaged in their essential routine, foraging. The air vibrated with the scratch of claws on hardpan, the soft chirps of communication, and the constant, vigilant alarm calls of the sentinels posted on the tallest mounds. Pip, small and still clumsy, was supposed to be tucked safely between the burrows, under the eye of the designated babysitters. But curiosity is a dangerous luxury in the desert. He had spotted it, a fat, iridescent beetle, shimmering with a metallic green sheen, crawling just beyond the periphery of the safe zone. The lure was irresistible. A clumsy hop, a frantic scoot, and Pip was committed. He was too focused on the prize, too inexperienced to heed the sudden, inexplicable silence that fell over the colony. The sentinels, momentarily distracted by a distant kestrel, failed to register the precise location of the movement. Pip had crossed the invisible line, the boundary between safety and the waiting oblivion. He secured his treasure, triumph bubbling up inside his tiny chest, but when he looked back, the familiar mounds seemed miles away, blurring under the oppressive heat haze. And then he heard it. Not the frantic alarm of his family, but a wet, low shuffling sound that tasted like dust and decay. The black-backed jackals? They are the opportunists of the bush, sleek hunters driven by an insatiable hunger and a frightening intelligence. They arrived not in a chaotic rush, but in a slow, methodical spread, appearing almost magically from behind the dried thorn bushes and scrub. There were 4 of them, each lean and muscled, their tails tipped with black, their ears rigid and pointed. They didn't bark, they communicated in menacing snorts and silent glances, staking out their positions. Pip's blood ran cold, a terror far beyond anything he had ever known seizing his tiny limbs. He dropped the beetle and tried to bolt, but he was surrounded. Every direction offered the same sight, a set of predatory teeth, yellowed and sharp, reflecting the malice of the relentless desert. The closest jackal, a large female with a deep scar running over her snout, let out a low growl, a sound meant not to frighten, but to paralyze. It worked. Pip dug frantically, his minuscule claws scraping uselessly against the unforgiving hardpan. The colony was now a silent blur in the distance, their collective fear preventing them from rushing out. They knew the terrible equation: challenging 4 adult jackals meant sacrificing not one, but many. Pip was already marked, a tragic necessity. The jackals knew they had won. They sat back slightly, enjoying the spectacle of the pup's complete psychological breakdown. They moved closer, inch by excruciating inch. The air grew thick with the metallic, sharp scent of predator breath. Pip curled into a tight, trembling ball, his heart hammering against his ribs like a desperate drum. He closed his eyes, accepting the final, inevitable lunge. The world shrank to the size of a single, desperate heartbeat. Look at this pure, overwhelming fear. It is over. There is no biological answer for this pup. No mother is close enough, no adult male can intercept in time, no burrow is within reach. This is the moment when the narrative closes, the tragic but common ending to a vulnerable life in the wilderness. But remember what we promised. Watch closely now, as the impossible arrives. The scarred jackal, the leader of the pack, finally committed. She rose onto her haunches, poised to spring, her ears flattened with anticipation. This was the final second. The dust was settling, waiting for the inevitable stain of crimson. But then, the jackals froze. Not because of a sound, but because of a massive, inexplicable vibration traveling through the earth. It started as a subtle hum, growing quickly into a rhythmic, powerful thrumming that resonated deep in the chest. It was not the high-pitched shriek of an eagle, nor the heavy plodding of an antelope. It was a rapid, colossal movement coming directly across the open flatlands. The jackals, creatures of cunning and caution, instantly abandoned their immediate, guaranteed meal. Their ears swiveled frantically, trying to place the direction and identity of the sudden intrusion. Their predatory focus was utterly shattered. Whatever was approaching was big, moving at frightening speed, and commanded a primal fear that superseded the desire for food. The air began to swirl, and a monstrous, churning cloud of dust erupted over the horizon, painting a thick, hazy curtain across the red desert floor. It was a charging force, an entity tearing across the terrain, getting louder, faster, closer. The jackals began to move, not in retreat, but in confused, nervous dispersion. They backed away from Pip, their bodies low, their eyes darting between the terrified pup and the oncoming wall of swirling red earth. Who or what could possibly command this level of terror from the desert's most calculating scavengers? Something enormous, certainly, but why the speed? And why the direct trajectory toward this isolated spot? The answer is charging right at them, and it changes everything we think we know about the food chain. The dust cloud swirls violently, like a curtain rising on an epic stage, revealing the outline of the rescuer, an unlikely, massive figure that the jackals recognize instantly as a threat they dare not challenge. The small, trembling meerkat pup is safe, for now, tucked in the center of the chaotic ring, waiting for the moment of truth. Don't dare look away. The identity of the creature rushing in to save Pip is about to be revealed, and it will shock you. Like this video, subscribe so you don't miss parts 2 and 3, and tell us right now in the comments, what country or city are you watching this miracle story from? We want to know where in the world we are sharing this act of impossible kindness. If the initial horror of isolation wasn't enough, the moments that followed were steeped in true, cold terror, the kind that steals the breath right out of your tiny chest. This desert, usually a place of busy life and communal warmth, had suddenly become a solitary cage, and that tiny meerkat, still trembling violently, was the prisoner. We need to know who saves this baby, and if you are holding your breath for this little one, please show your support for the incredible fight for life happening right now by tapping that subscribe button and hitting the like button. Every single interaction tells us that these stories matter to you. The jackals knew they had the advantage. They were masters of this land, opportunistic hunters whose patience was only matched by their ruthlessness. They didn't rush. The closest jackal, its ears flattened against its skull, did not immediately advance. It circled, a low, guttural rasp issuing from its throat, testing the air, ensuring there were no hidden defenses, no frantic mother about to erupt from the dusty earth. For the baby, the world had shrunk to a ring of snapping teeth and hot, dry breath. The sun beat down, turning the sand into a blinding white glare, but the light offered no comfort. It only illuminated the sharpness of the threat. The little meerkat, driven purely by instinct, attempted one more time to dig, pushing soft pawfuls of dirt aside, a desperate, futile effort against the vastness of the desert floor. Its eyes, wide and black, were reflections of pure, unadulterated panic. The perimeter tightened, The secondary jackals, previously hanging back, now moved into flanking positions, cutting off the last imaginary escape routes. Their shadows converged, overlapping the meerkat's tiny form, plunging it into momentary darkness, a chilling premonition of what was surely coming. This wasn't just a hunt. It was a slow, agonizing siege meant to break the spirit before the body. One of the jackals, perhaps tired of the delay, took a tentative, testing step forward, causing the little meerkat to emit a sound, a tiny, ragged squeak that wasn't a warning or a challenge, but the raw sound of despair. And then, a pattern interrupt. Not a visual cue, but a sonic one. Far off, beyond the shimmering heat haze that distorted the horizon, there was a sound, a quick, rhythmic thump-thump-thump. It was brief, muffled, and entirely out of place in the silent drama unfolding in the sand. The jackals paused, their professional focus momentarily broken. Their ears swiveled, trying to place the alien noise, confirming that the world held something other than this easy meal. It was just a second's hesitation, a fleeting moment of distraction, but for the baby meerkat, it was an eternity of borrowed time. The tension, already stretched thin, now vibrated with the unknown possibility of intervention. The sound faded as quickly as it had come, leaving the heat and the hunger to resume their dominance. The lead jackal, dismissing the noise as inconsequential, lowered its head and took 2 swift, definitive steps closer. It was preparing to pounce, its muscles coiling tight beneath its mangy hide. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of dust and fear. The baby meerkat stopped trembling. Instead, it froze completely, accepting the imminent strike. This was the moment where instinct usually dictated running or fighting, but this little one had no reserves left, only the raw knowledge that it was utterly, completely alone. The hunter lunged. But as the jackal sprang, aiming for the helpless bundle of fluff, something happened that caused the strike to falter midair. It wasn't a direct interception. It was a seismic shift in the atmosphere. The jackal, trained to register every subtle change in its environment, suddenly looked not at the prey beneath it, but sharply behind it. A profound, instinctual fear, colder and sharper than the desert night, seized its attention. The momentum of the attack dissipated into confusion. What could possibly make a confident desert predator abort a kill already in motion? What sound, what scent, what presence could possibly override the primal urge of hunger and dominance? This was the pivotal question, the life-or-death mystery unfolding in the baking sun. The second sound came then, closer this time, and unmistakable. It wasn't the rhythmic thumping heard earlier. This was a deep, resonant rumble, a sound that seemed to carry weight and purpose, shaking the very grains of sand where the meerkat lay. The jackals, who minutes before were the picture of arrogance, now displayed fractured focus. They looked at each other, their predatory cohesion breaking down. Their tails, previously held low and focused, began to droop, their ears nervously pinned back. The shift was instantaneous and total. They were no longer the hunters. They were now the potentially hunted. The source of the disturbance remained unseen, hidden by a rise of sand dunes and a thick midday shimmer. Yet, its effect was terrifyingly clear to the jackals. The animal that was approaching, whatever it was larger, faster, and commanded a respect that bordered on terror in the savanna ecosystem. It wasn't just near. It was approaching with relentless speed, closing the distance in great, powerful strides. The meerkat, still frozen in its despair, felt the vibrations through the sand, sensing the approach of a great power, but it could not yet distinguish if this new arrival was a savior or simply a larger, more frightening executioner. Its eyes flickered rapidly between the retreating, nervous forms of the jackals and the distant horizon, where the dust began to plume. The jackals made their decision quickly, demonstrating the ancient truth that fear often trumps hunger. They were not willing to engage whatever colossal power was bearing down on them. With surprising swiftness, they abandoned their prize not in a frantic run, but in a tactical, low-slung trot, melting away into the sparse scrub brush, desperate to put distance between themselves and the incoming threat. The ring of danger dissolved, leaving the baby meerkat alone once more, shivering not just from fear, but from the sudden, inexplicable safety. Silence returned, but it was a brittle, temporary quiet, a pause before the next great movement. The jackals were gone, but the threat that chased them away was now seconds from arrival. The plume of dust grew taller, closer, resolving itself from an indistinct cloud into a fast-moving, powerful shape. The vibrations in the ground were now fierce, rattling the roots of the dry grass. The tension was unbearable. After the agonizing wait and the close brush with death, the baby meerkat had survived the jackals only to face the sheer enormity of this new, unknown force. What was this colossal presence that wielded such instant and terrible authority over the desert's scavengers? The shape burst over the dune crest. It was massive, moving with a controlled, terrifying grace. The light caught its outline, revealing a powerful musculature and speed that defied the heavy heat. It was here. It had arrived. The savior. But salvation is not always gentle. The sheer size of the animal that now towered over the baby meerkat was overwhelming, casting a shadow that swallowed the little creature whole. It pulled up short, kicking up a final cloud of dust, and stood motionless for a moment, observing the frightened, solitary baby huddled in the sand. The identity of this powerful intervener, the hero that terrified the jackals and now stood guard over the abandoned meerkat, was finally revealed. It was an astonishing, almost unbelievable presence, the last creature anyone would expect to enter this scene of fragile vulnerability. The threat of the jackals had been averted, but the greater unknown loomed directly overhead. What would this mighty animal do now? Was this a rescue, or merely a temporary stay of execution by a more powerful predator? We are just seconds away from seeing the fate of this tiny, courageous life. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and like the video, and let us know in the comments right now what country or city you are watching from. Stay with us for the final part of this incredible story to witness the powerful conclusion. The dry, scorching breath of the African savanna seemed to hold still, an unbearable weight settling over the small creature caught in the center of the dust bowl. 4 sets of predatory eyes, glinting yellow with a hunger both ancient and clinical, locked onto the tiny, trembling form of the baby meerkat. This was the moment, the final, agonizing silence before the violence, the closing of a loop that had started with a single, naive wonder. But the savannah, harsh as it is, sometimes reserves its most profound surprises for the very brink of disaster. You will not believe the sudden, thunderous arrival that completely shattered this circle of death. Before we reveal the identity of the incredible, unexpected savior, take a single second right now to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support ensures these stories of raw survival and unbelievable luck continue to reach the world. The second hand of fate clicked. The surrounding jackals, sleek and confident, shifted their weight, preparing to rush their dinner. The lead jackal, scarred and dominant, flattened its ears, a silent promise of the end. The little meerkat, knowing only the desperate instruction of its deepest instincts, chirped a faint, almost inaudible plea. Its body, built for speed and community, was failing it now, isolated and exposed. It was preparing to fight, a ridiculous, futile effort that would last mere seconds, yet the courage radiating from that small, vulnerable chest was palpable. The drama was complete, the tragedy inevitable. But then, the air itself seemed to shudder. Not a tremor from the earth, but a deep, resonant thrum that pulsed through the savanna grass and up into the very core of the jackal's instincts. It was a sound that belonged not to flight, but to sheer, reckless momentum. The jackals, creatures of caution, paused. Their heads cocked slightly, yellow eyes momentarily losing their sharp focus on the immediate prey, distracted by the vibrating disturbance that was rapidly approaching from the periphery of their ambush. What was this intrusion? Was it a larger predator that posed a threat to them? They exchanged quick, nervous glances, their perfect coordination momentarily broken by the pattern interrupt. The thrumming intensified, escalating into a rhythmic, heavy pounding, the unmistakable sound of large hooves driving against hard earth. A cloud of terracotta dust rose dramatically above the thorny scrub 100 yards away, moving with a velocity that spoke not of wandering, but of desperate, charging intent. The largest jackal, the one whose muzzle was already lowering towards the meerkat, hesitated. Survival dictated an immediate assessment of the new risk. An easy meal was not worth a severe injury or death. The dust cloud was now a terrifying, shapeless mass closing the distance. The sound was deafening, the ground trembling so violently that the small meerkat was almost bounced from its precarious stance. The jackals began to fret, shuffling their paws. They had spent too much time enjoying the psychological victory of the trap. They had failed to maintain vigilance. The window of opportunity was slamming shut, and the source of the interruption was clearly not slowing down. This was the pivotal moment, a desperate lottery of the wild. Who was rushing to the scene? Was it a matriarch meerkat, driven mad by maternal desperation, rushing towards certain death to make a final stand? Was it a rogue leopard, drawn by the scent of the nervous jackals? The mystery held the breath of every viewer, every creature in the immediate vicinity. Do you think four-seasoned predators can be scared off by a simple noise? Keep watching, because the visual confirmation of this arrival is what makes the African bush utterly unpredictable. This is the moment where nature defies all expectations. Suddenly, the haze of dust was breached, and the full, stunning figure of the savior burst into view. It was neither a swift hunter nor a terrified escapee. It was the absolute embodiment of territorial fury and thick-skinned determination. Charging with the speed of a runaway train and the reckless power of a bulldozer, the savior was a massive, scarred warthog boar. Its coarse, dark coat was bristling, its head low, and its two sets of tusks, the long, curving upper set and the shorter, razor-sharp lower ones, were leveled forward like natural weapons of war. The warthog was not saving the meerkat out of altruism. It was clearing its space. The presence of four stationary jackals, focused intently on a spot near its usual wallow, was a violation of its personal sovereignty, a threat it would not tolerate. It charged directly into the center of the ambush circle, emitting a guttural, tearing grunt of pure aggression. The sight, sound, and smell of the warthog's reckless momentum was a profound and immediate shock to the jackals. Their coordinated ambush dissolved instantly. The first jackal that had been preparing to lunge was forced to scramble sideways, barely avoiding being skewered by the sweeping motion of the boar's massive head. The warthog didn't pause. It didn't slow down to assess the damage. It simply kept driving forward, its short, powerful legs churning the dirt, forcing the remaining three jackals to leap backward in panicked disorder. The large boar was a whirlwind of mud and muscle, scattering the predators as if they were nothing more than bothersome flies. The jackals, surprised and terrified by this reckless, single-minded attack, didn't stop to reassess the risk. They were built for scavenging and calculated risks, not for confronting the sheer, unbridled rage of a territorial warthog. With yelps of protest and immediate fear, they broke ranks completely, turning tail and sprinting away from the sudden, unexpected violence, vanishing back into the tall, golden grasses from which they had emerged. The circle of death was broken. The tension evaporated, leaving a strange, echoing silence. The warthog, having utterly dominated the space, skidded to a stop near where the meerkat stood frozen in place. It snorted deeply, its pig-like nostrils flaring, still keyed up on adrenaline, its whole body vibrating with the effort of the charge. It surveyed the now empty space with proprietary satisfaction, then, with a final, heavy stomp of its hoof that seemed to say, "Don't mess with my yard," the massive animal turned and trotted away towards the shade of a nearby acacia tree, completely oblivious to the small, insignificant life it had just saved. The baby meerkat remained motionless for a long, stunned moment, processing the chaotic, overwhelming turn of events. The immediate terror of the jackals was gone, replaced by the sheer shock of the warthog's appearance. It was safe. Miraculously, impossibly safe. And then, faintly, carried on the cooling evening breeze, a familiar sound reached its small ears. A series of high-pitched, insistent barks and alarm calls, not distant, but close, coordinated, and utterly familiar. Its family. The chaos and dust of the warthog's charge must have been seen or heard by the colony lookout. The danger had passed, and the colony was now calling their lost member back to the safety of the fold. With a final, tremulous shake, the little meerkat gathered its courage. It turned its tiny body away from the receding silhouette of its fierce, accidental guardian, and scrambled towards the source of the comforting calls, disappearing with astonishing speed back into the deep maze of burrows and the warm, welcoming embrace of its waiting family. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in fiery oranges and reds, closing the chapter on a day that had nearly ended in tragedy, only to be rewritten by the astonishing, unpredictable force of the wild. What an incredible, heart-stopping moment of survival! If the sheer unexpectedness of this rescue warmed your heart, please don't let this story fade into the digital dust. Hit that like button right now, subscribe to the channel for more unbelievable tales of nature's raw power, and most importantly, tell us in the comments below, what country and city are you watching this stunning moment of survival from? We want to hear from you.